Welcome back to The Obsessed Marketer, the podcast designed for you, the small business owner looking to jumpstart your business with quick marketing strategies that you can take with you to increase your sales, reach, and growth. I'm Andrew Hayes, and joined with me today is a brand new face on the podcast and to VS. Welcome, Taylor Booman. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so welcome to the VS family and the Obsessed Marketer family. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks. I'm excited. I can't wait to, get started with you guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you already have a lot of good skill sets as well, especially when it comes to the digital accessibility in the space. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? How'd you get into that?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, my design career started when I was working for the University of Chicago, Illinois. And there, since it is a university, they want to be inclusive to everybody, as we all kind of do. And there is where I got trained in web accessibility and other things of that nature. So, yeah.
Nice. So what is web accessibility then?
Yeah, so web accessibility is just the ability for anyone who's differently able to also access the websites and other platforms that we use in a way that doesn't disrupt their daily life and actually increases their quality of life.
So we're talking about like people who have different disabilities such as like blindness, deafness, motor loss. What other ones are we talking about here?
Yeah, there's also cognitive disabilities such as ADHD, dyslexia. That's just to name a few. And they all kind of affect the quality of life of people who are viewing these websites because it's not something that like you or I think of typically on a daily basis unless it's brought to our attention. Mm-hmm. And with the upcoming trends of just advancements in technology, we're probably leaning towards more of that ADA compliance as we further into the, future. We want to make sure it's ADA compliant because of also the lawsuits that might be taking place if it's not compatible or web accessible.
So are we talking about maybe this might be a future law or legal stuff? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, well, actually, there's like an avalanche of lawsuits being filed against websites that are not meeting the 508 guidelines from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, they are known as. They have a great catalog for you to kind of look at, but in 2022, it's now trending that if you're not having this accessible for everybody, it's going to create lawsuits for you and your business. It's similar to that if you don't have like ramps in your building or ADA compliant signs that have Braille. You just need to factor that into your website as well as your buildings.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll link that resource down in the show notes as well if you want to read more about what's going on there. But definitely we're seeing this trend towards making things more accessible. Now to put this more into the real world, right? Like we look at social media apps are now becoming more accessible. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, so social media apps such as like Facebook and Twitter are having alt text on images. This is just so if there is like a speech reader, which is another like software program that helps people with disabilities.
Think of it like text to speech, basically.
Yeah, text to speech.
Yeah, so like I can click the little button and have Siri read me. Even though I don't have any, problems in that sense, I still do that anyway because I prefer Siri reading me something. It's the Gen Z low attention span thing. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's just thinking about that in the sense of like, okay, so what is this image like entailing in the sense of content? So if it's like, for example, me and Andrew just sitting here with a picture, like how do you describe that in words so that it can read with the program to the person with a disability and or just someone who might not see as well? Because disabilities don't mean just like one end of the spectrum, like complete blindness or like complete color blindness, where it's like monochromacy in which you see. It does entail people who are losing their vision, people who have glasses. I mean, there are 4 billion adults in the world who actually wear glasses. Whether that's up close or far away, I do not know offhand, but it is something to be considered when, doing your sites.
I know. And that's the thing too, is that we want to be accessible to everyone. If we're thinking about our customer avatar, which is something that we've talked about on the show before, we do everything, you revolve your business around your customers and you always, one of the big things is to never, you're not making things for yourself. You're making things for your customers and trying to be that. And so to kind of open up the horizons a little bit, you want to think about those that have disabilities, but are still your avatar, because those with disabilities are still your avatar. They're still, 25 to 35 female, if that's what you're targeting, you know, that's who you want. So you want to try to, open up that customer base a little too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nice to have the customer base for sure. And it's just nice also to see how it impacts the lives of these people because if I needed help marketing, but I am completely deaf in one ear, how am I supposed to navigate a website, let alone build my business? So it's just things to consider when doing that. Like, okay, so if I am deaf, for example, are there alt captions on videos? Is there, what is it called? True text for images as well. That's, the ability to read within an image the things that are happening
Mhm.
besides alt text, which is a specificity that here at Viral Solutions we can help with as well. So,
So we talked a little bit about the importance of
mhm.
accessibility compliance for web and digital.
Yep.
But okay, so let's kind of go down a list of some things that we got to think about too when we're building a site, when we're posting on social media. What are some things as a business owner or a marketer that we want to look for when we're trying to be accessible to everyone?
Yeah, so when you're looking at your website, you're going to want to look at a few things. You're going to want to look at contrast. Does the colors that you're having, which are probably beautiful in design, are they actually visually different enough to where someone can read what you're putting on the page or web page
Say if
or
someone's
copy?
colorblind
Yeah.
or maybe has a vision impairment too.
Yep.
Because I know what we looked this up, right? It was like 1 in 200 or 1 in 300 men have, red green color blindness. Actually, our boss has it,
Yes. Yeah.
and so I mean, thank God he has great graphic designers
Yeah.
who can also help, whatever. But for the sake of that, say can't see red and green, those
Yep.
contrast together, like, you wouldn't be able to read what that button says, what that text
Yep.
says.
Yeah, and it's also too just like if you have two similar colors, like let's say you have a navy and a light blue, sometimes that light blue isn't quite light enough where it has enough contrast for someone to read, especially with visual impairments such as like low partial vision, near farsightedness, just getting older. I mean, as soon as you hit 50, your vision decreases every year. Unfortunately, that's just what happens when you get older. Glasses can only do so much.
That's
So,
okay, that's why I'm never gonna get old.
yeah.
Just kidding.
So it's nice to have like for example like a magnification for like specific text, especially ones that are in fonts that have like serifs on them, those little like tag things that are at the bottom
Yeah,
of
if you
like
don't
the
know the
font.
difference between
Yeah.
that's a basic design principle here is,
Yeah.
the first thing you learn is serif versus sans serif
Yeah,
fonts.
and honestly, for the most part, you want to use sans serifs for most of your copy text. That's just the most easy, like very legible for someone to read. If you use sans serifs, it can be kind of muddy. It gets a little confusing with all of those added, I guess, elements to that font.
Yeah, the little squiggles
Yeah, the little
and yeah.
design elements.
Yes.
But there's also other things to check besides just visual impairments. We do, I think I mentioned earlier, the deafness and things of that nature. I mean, there is so much that happens in our lifetimes, like going to concerts and the little hairs that are in our ears
Yeah.
fall down, and that's kind of what causes hearing loss or tinnitus. And having things like the alt text, in the sense of I guess subtext or subtitles, there we go,
Yes.
is very important. I mean, I watch Netflix and I have subtitles on.
Yeah,
So
same here.
why wouldn't you put it on the rest of your videos just for, making sure that they can understand that information as well as the other person?
And it's nice that social media sites right now, like say Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube have auto-generated captions as
Yep.
well. I mean, granted, we've all seen the funny little mistakes that sometimes the auto
Yeah.
captions can do. So,
Yep.
it's worth investing in some maybe software or, a website like rev.com to get those
Yeah.
transcribed for you. But I mean, say you don't use one of those sites and you're just embedding a raw video on your website
Yep.
using a player, and okay, you have a deaf customer that can't get that content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just also too like with the auto generated captions, just making sure to have someone just watch the video and making sure that those are one synced up because sometimes you'll have the captions and the video don't sync up.
Yes.
And then that causes for a lot of confusion, especially like if you're trying to describe a product, for example, and you're trying to show the product and that's what it's saying in the subtext or I guess subtitles, but it's just the person's still talking about the product and it's lagging and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, here's the product. And it's like, there is no product. What are you talking about? And then there's that disconnect. And now you just lost a potential client. So,
Yes. And go somewhere that actually has
yeah.
accessibility, you know. Okay, so you talked a little bit about true text for images
Yep.
on a site. Now, that's something I'm not really familiar with. What is that?
So, true text is just the ability for images to be translated into text. So like instead of alt text, it actually reads what is on the image itself.
Okay.
So I can divulge a little bit more into that, but it's something that I'm still personally researching and learning more myself. So as soon as I know, I'm gonna let all of you guys
Yeah,
know.
we'll come back to you. But so then another one here is hierarchy.
Hierarchy.
We can look for. Well, now what is that?
So hierarchy is just having, for example, like a header, a subheader, and then the actual copy itself. That's just meaning that there is a large enough font that makes sense and is consistent throughout the entire web page and or like your printed copy if you're doing print media, I guess. And that's just making sure that you're one staying consistent. That's very important for people with cognitive disabilities, such as like ADHD and dyslexia. It doesn't necessarily help with the actual copy reading, but it does give them a visual structure to help.
So kind of more like a generalized, like, you know, order of importance, right?
Yes.
Read the header, then the subheader, then your body.
Yes, this also helps people with ADHD immensely just because there's not too many busyness happening on the page, such as like pop up ads or scroll ads or anything like that that can distract them from the actual thing that they're trying to learn about. As someone who also suffers from ADHD, it's very nice to have, like, for example, a lot of white space to give the eyes a visual break and
Hmm.
not to have them draw away from the importance of what you're trying to convey with the copy.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been to those websites before
Yeah.
where you have side banner ads, you got
Yeah.
a top banner ad, there's a bottom
Yep.
like scroll bar ad. Then,
Yeah.
yeah, I can imagine that would not be very fun if you were very
Yeah.
easily distracted by those things, which I'm guessing that's what they're trying to do. But anyway,
Yep.
so we talked about, okay, so that's some of the things that we can think about in terms of
Yeah.
accessibility. So what can you do to kind of um keep yourself in check in a way to make sure that you're staying accessibility compliant?
Yeah, so there's just a few things. There's a lot of tools that you can use. One of my favorites is webaim.org. It has a Chrome extension where you can actually take a little screen capture of the website or web page that you're viewing currently, and it lets you know, like, hey, you have some contrast issues, you have alt text issues where you don't have any, or it's not legible to the text to speech adapter. So that's just a few things. There's also things such as Funkify, which is one of my favorites. It is a really great Chrome extension. You have the free version where you have a few options. It lets you see like if you have dyslexia, or there was like an old Betty version where
Yeah.
it's like an older person kind of viewing your website.
Or there was one even that we were playing with a
Yeah.
little earlier before this episode. One that mimics having tremors in your
Yeah.
hand, and it's like I could not even imagine how crazy my mouse pointer was going across the screen. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to click anything.
And it seems like it's almost like a lot. It seems like it's too much. But if you have ever had a friend or family member or just know of anyone that has those tremors, such as like Parkinson's or things like that, it is very real where it is so hard to actually navigate it. So it's really nice to have that kind of motor impairment viewer so you can actually see what it's like. Put yourself in their shoes, have a little empathy in that sense.
Yeah.
So it's nice with Funkify because you can do that and it's free. Otherwise, you can pay $4.99, which is really
Mhm.
inexpensive for a monthly subscription to it. And you have a lot more options, such as people who have ADHD or other cognitive disabilities, and just so much more, especially in the color blindness category.
Yeah. So I mean, like when it comes to this, putting yourself in your customer shoes that you wouldn't think that you would ever have to be in, and seeing, okay, well, I'm looking at my website and wow, like that nice bright red background I
Yeah.
chose. Oh, that doesn't look so good, and I can't read,
Yeah.
what's going on anymore.
Yeah.
So give it a try. We've been showing it on the screen here on the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube, just a little bit about it, but we'll link down these two resources in the description and in the show notes of the podcast for you guys to check out. Again, they're free unless you want to pay a little more for Funkify. But you can also reach out to us too.
Yeah. You can reach out to us. We did now recently add to our 50-point audit web accessibility. So when you do come to us, we'll be checking for A, contrast issues, B, alt text issues, and there's just a few more things. If you just click on our website, get a 50-point free audit, then hey, you'll be talking to our awesome auditor, Sean,
Yeah.
and he will be going through those steps with you about ADA compliance as well as the rest of your audit for the website.
And again, that's free at viralsolutions.net if you want to check it out for your business. Again, there's tons of other points that we go across, the do's, the don'ts, what's working, what's not working. We even go down to your business. It's fantastic. It's free. It's at viralsolutions.net. But Taylor, thank you so much for giving us a little insight on this. It's something that, again, that you don't think about, but it is detrimental. It's going to be detrimental, I feel like.
Oh, it is.
In the future. You know, if there's compliances that you have to follow and rules you have to follow in a physical space, as we move toward a more digital world, this is going to be more of an importance.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because if you look at history, if you look at the 1990s when not web accessibility, sorry, but just accessibility in buildings was becoming like a huge topic in the sense of one, lawsuits, and two, just people not being able to go inside of buildings because they had staircases, and that was just lawsuit after lawsuit. It's going to be the same thing, but in the digital realm, because we are advancing as a society, which also means that we need to look out for everyone in the society. So that's why I chose web accessibility as my specialty as a designer. So just wanting to make sure that everyone has the chance to view and learn about everything they can on the web.
And if you want to learn more or have any more questions for Taylor too, she's always available. You go to viralsolutions.net, click that little blue chat bubble at the bottom of the page, and you can definitely ask a question. We'll get back to you. And then again, that free 50-point audit for you as well. Taylor, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks.